He told me I was overthinking. I told him I'd stop. Instead, I started writing everything down: dates, messages, stories. When I confronted him, I pulled out my notebook and said, "Which lie would you like to start with?" "Hi, 47 female, have been married to Mark, 49 male, for 24 years. We live outside Columbus, Ohio, in a suburb where everyone waves when you drive by and the local Kroger cashier knows your name. We were the stable couple." That's what everyone said. 2 kids, both out of the house now. Jake is 22 and works in Pittsburgh. Sarah is 25, just got engaged. We have a golden retriever named Buddy, and we've lived in the same house for 17 years. Mark works in medical sales and travels a lot. I'm a nurse. We've been through hard times, but we made it. At least that's what I thought. It started small, really small. He started working late more often. He said there was a new client his team was trying to land. Totally believable. Then he'd come home late from dinners with reps. Again, that's normal in his line of work. But then he started locking his phone. We've never had passwords on our phones. I asked him about it, and he laughed it off. Said he had a customer with sensitive info and they were required to lock phones for HIPAA or something. That sounded legit, even though I work in healthcare too and know that's not how HIPAA works. But I let it go. A few weeks later, he changed his cologne. Just showed up with a new scent one day. I asked him what happened to the one I bought him last Christmas. He shrugged and said he ran out. It still had half a bottle left when I checked the bathroom cabinet. I didn't say anything. Then one night I was cleaning out the laundry. I pulled out his pants to check for receipts, tissues, the usual junk. I found a receipt from a restaurant in Cincinnati. We live 1.5 hours away. It was for 2 entrees and 2 glasses of wine. Date on the receipt? The same night he told me he was in Dayton for an overnight work conference. I put the receipt in a drawer. That's when I started the notebook. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't even a plan. It was just a way to keep things straight. I'm not a confrontational person, and I didn't want to start a fight unless I had real proof. So I started writing things down. March 3rd, he said he was in Dayton. Found restaurant receipt from Cincinnati. Claimed it was a client dinner. Doesn't explain why it was just 2 people. March 15th, first time he mentions someone named Lena. Says she's new in the office. March 25th, comes home smelling like smoke. Says they had a team bonfire. In March? April 4th, found lipstick stain on the collar of his white shirt. Not my color. April 7th, said he was golfing. Golf clubs and trunk were still dusty. April 15th, phone notification popped up while he was in the shower. Message preview said, "I miss you already." Sender name, L. There's more. So much more. I stopped asking questions after the 3rd, "You're overthinking it." He started saying that all the time. Like a broken record. "You're just imagining things. Stop being paranoid." God, you're making this so hard. I wasn't imagining it. I just needed a clear picture. So I wrote it all down. I never left the notebook out. I never snooped his phone. I didn't install spyware or trackers. I just wrote what I observed. I needed more. I wanted it to be undeniable. I told myself, when I'm ready, it will be obvious. Last week was the breaking point. I was doing laundry again. His jacket was zipped up. Inside, I found a small hotel-branded notepad. It had handwriting on it. Not his. It said, "Last night was amazing. I wish we didn't have to hide." My heart felt like it exploded in my chest. I sat down on the floor of the laundry room and stared at it for 20 minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt done. I went upstairs. Took out the notebook. Reviewed everything. I added this to the list. Then I made a plan. I told him we needed to talk. He rolled his eyes. "If this is another one of your overthinking episodes, no," I said. "I just want to talk." We sat at the kitchen table. He poured himself a whiskey. Tried to look calm, like he wasn't guilty. I placed the notebook on the table between us. What's that? My brain, I said. Since I'm so good at overthinking. He frowned. What are you doing? I've been writing down everything. Every time your story didn't add up. Every time you told me something that felt wrong. Every new lie. He smirked. You've gone off the deep end. I opened it to a random page. March 3rd. Dayton, right? Why is there a Cincinnati restaurant receipt in your pants from that night? He looked down. That was a work dinner. With who? He didn't answer. I flipped to another page. April 15th. I miss you already. Who's Elle? He stared at the notebook. His mouth opened, then closed. I have 100 more entries, I said quietly. Would you like to pick which lie we start with? He didn't say a word. He ran his hand through his hair and sighed like he was the one who had been hurt. You're making this bigger than it is. I picked up the notepad I found in his jacket. You mean like this? This little love note from your hotel girlfriend. His eyes flicked to the pad, then back at me. That's not mine. No, I figured that out. It's hers. The one you've been sneaking around with. I don't know what that is. Really? Because it was in your coat pocket. He didn't respond. Just stared at me with this cold, detached face like I was a stranger he didn't care about. That's when something snapped in me. I flipped the notebook to the back. I had written out a timeline. Trips, receipts, messages, fake excuses. I slid it toward him. Here, I said. This is how long you've been lying. If you want to deny it, you're going to need a better story than, I don't know. He pushed back from the table and stood up. I can't do this. I stood up too. You already did this. I'm just asking for honesty now. I made a mistake, he muttered. I tilted my head. Which one? There's about 42 mistakes in that notebook. He didn't answer. Instead, he left the room. Just walked out of the kitchen like I was the one being difficult. I stood there, alone with my notebook, my hands shaking. The next day, he didn't come home. Didn't text. Didn't call. The dog sat by the door waiting, but I knew he wasn't coming back that night. I called his sister, who lives in Dayton. She said she hadn't heard from him, but she didn't sound surprised. That made my stomach turn. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered and a woman said, "Is this Mark's wife?" I froze. Yes. Who is this? She paused. My name's Allison. I think we need to talk. I stepped into my bedroom and shut the door. Go ahead. I didn't know he was married, she said. Her voice was shaking. He told me he was divorced. Said you left him a year ago. I sat down on the edge of the bed. How long have you two been seeing each other? Almost 9 months. I let out a slow breath. I figured as much. He said he travels for work, but he was always with me on weekends. He told me he lived alone. I didn't question it. I closed my eyes. You're not the only one. She was quiet. Then she said, I found your number in his phone. I thought I was his emergency contact, but now I know why it wasn't my name. I appreciate you calling me, I said. I'm sorry, she whispered. I really didn't know. I believed her. When we hung up, I sat there for a long time, just holding the phone. Allison. That was her name. Not Lena. So now there were 2 women. Or maybe more. I had no idea anymore. That night, Mark came home. Like nothing happened. Walked in, dropped his bag by the door, and asked, "What's for dinner?" I stared at him. You disappeared for 3 days. Now you want dinner. He shrugged. I needed time. You had 9 months of time, Mark. He flinched. You talked to her. Which one? I snapped. He blinked. Allison, I said. She called me. He sat down on the couch. I didn't want it to be like this. Like what? He didn't answer. I walked over to the coffee table and picked up the notebook again. I'd started a new section since our last talk. I opened it to a fresh page, held it up. I'm not asking you to fix this. I'm asking how long you plan to lie. Still silence. Then something new happened. He laughed. Not like it was funny, but like he'd given up. I don't know. I stopped keeping track. That hit harder than any confession. You stopped keeping track? I repeated. He nodded. It got messy. I didn't want to deal with the fallout. So you kept stringing me along. You wouldn't understand, he said. It wasn't just about sex. It was escape. She listened. She didn't nag me. There it was. Nag. That word. The oldest trick in the book. I took a deep breath and said, I gave you 24 years of my life. I raised our kids. I worked night shifts, gave up vacations, stayed through your job losses, your back surgery, your drinking phase. And you're telling me you needed escape. He didn't speak. I picked up the pad he brought home from the hotel, Allison's note. I held it in my hand like it was burning through me. You lied. You cheated. You humiliated me. And now you're just sitting there. Still nothing. I haven't even told the kids yet, I said. Because I'm trying to protect what little respect they have for you. Mark stood up. Don't bring the kids into this. You brought them into this the day you threw away our family. He walked to the door. I need air. I nodded. Go ahead. I've got more to write anyway. And I did. Because the story isn't over. It's just getting worse. He left again that night. Didn't say where he was going. Didn't even take a bag. Just walked out the door and got into his car. I didn't ask him to stay. I didn't follow. I waited until I saw the headlights disappear down the road. Then I sat on the couch and stared at the wall. I thought I was past crying. But that night, I did cry. Not because he left again, but because I had started to realize maybe he was never really with me to begin with. 3 days later, I got a knock on the door. It was Allison. She looked nervous, like she was about to be ambushed. I didn't blame her. We hadn't spoken since the phone call. But there she was, standing on my front porch in jeans and a hoodie, holding a manila folder in her hand. I think you should see this, she said. I let her in. She sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd confronted Mark with the notebook. She slid the folder across to me. I found this in his car, she said. He left it at my place by accident last week. I opened it. Inside were printed emails, hotel bookings, car rentals, dinner reservations, all in different cities, all in Mark's name. Some of these overlap, I muttered, flipping through. That's the same week he said he was at a conference in Denver. He was with me in Indy that weekend, she said. Then she pulled out a small photo. It was a selfie of the two of them at a winery. I felt something shift in my stomach. Not jealousy. Not sadness. It was the feeling of realizing I still didn't know the whole truth. There's more, she said, lowering her voice. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a USB drive. He left this in his glove compartment. It's got files. Spreadsheets. Names. I think he's been doing this for longer than either of us knew. I plugged it into my laptop and opened the main folder. Inside were labeled documents: Chicago, Jan, Louisville, March, Boston, April. Each folder had receipts, photos, and emails with different women. Different names. Different email accounts. At least 6 women. Maybe more. I looked at Allison, who was now sitting with her hands in her lap like a child waiting for punishment. You didn't know? I asked. No, she whispered. I thought it was just me and him. We both sat there in stunned silence. Then she asked something I didn't expect. Do you think he's done this before? I nodded slowly. I think he's been doing it the whole time. Later that evening, I did something I never thought I would. I went to the attic and pulled out the old safe we kept locked for documents, birth certificates, house deed, passports. I unlocked it and dug through the papers until I found what I was looking for. A letter. From 2004. It was addressed to Mark. The handwriting wasn't mine. I can't keep waiting for you to leave her. It was signed with an initial, M. That was the year I was pregnant with Jake. He had told me he was traveling more for work that year too. I had believed him. I had never questioned it. Until now. I went back to my notebook and added a new page. June 2004. Possible affair. Found hidden letter. It all started to come together. The long work trips. The sudden late nights. The emergency meetings. I had explained them all away for years because I trusted him. Because I loved him. But love doesn't survive in silence. It rots in the shadows. I didn't hear from Mark for another 5 days. He texted once. Need space. Don't do anything rash. I didn't respond. Instead, I called a private investigator. Not because I wanted more proof. At this point, I had enough to write a book. But I needed to know what else I didn't know. Because if he was lying about this much, what else had he hidden? The investigator was blunt. If he's been living double lives, we'll find out. They started digging. Emails, travel logs, online dating accounts. And then, the real twist. They called me a week later and said, "Ma'am, are you sitting down?" Turns out, Mark had a second apartment in Cincinnati. Not a hotel. Not a room he stayed in for work. A leased one-bedroom apartment he'd had for 2 years. Paid through a different account I never knew existed. When I went with the investigator to check it out, the building manager let us in. "He's barely here," she said. "Comes maybe once a week." Inside the apartment was a second life. A minimalist living room. A stocked kitchen. A closet with clothes, shoes, cologne, and pictures. Pictures of him with another woman. A different one. Not Allison. This one looked younger. Early 30s, maybe. And in one of the pictures, they were holding a baby. I didn't say a word. I didn't touch anything. I just stood in the middle of that apartment, looking at the life he built outside of me. Outside of our family. Outside of our marriage. The investigator looked at me and said, "What do you want to do now?" I didn't have an answer yet. But I knew one thing. This wasn't just cheating. This was betrayal on a level I couldn't even process yet. And it still wasn't over. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the car outside that apartment building for hours, staring at the front door, wondering what else I didn't know. Wondering who the woman was. Wondering if the baby was his. I wasn't even angry at that point. I felt numb. Like everything inside me had been scraped out and left hollow. 24 years, and I didn't recognize the man I was married to anymore. The next morning, I drove back home. I texted him. "Me, come home. We're ending this properly. Face to face." He responded in less than a minute. "Mark, I'll be there in an hour." He walked in like nothing had happened. No apology. No explanation. Just walked in and dropped his keys on the table like it was just another day. "I got your message," he said. I stood in the living room, notebook in one hand, the photo from the Cincinnati apartment in the other. "Sit down." He didn't argue. He sat. I tossed the photo in front of him. His face didn't change, didn't flinch. "How old is the baby?" He stared at the picture. 9 months. I blinked hard. "Yours?" He didn't answer right away. He just sighed. "I think so." I stood there frozen. That one sentence shattered everything I thought I still had left. "You think so?" He looked up. She didn't want to tell me at first. Said she'd raise him alone. Then things changed. She asked me for help. "I didn't plan on this." "I swear." "You didn't plan on this?" My voice cracked. "You have a child, Mark. A whole other life. A second apartment. You've been lying to me for years. You've been with Allison. And Lena. And now her? How many, Mark? How many others?" He looked away. I took a shaky breath and asked, "Does Sarah know?" He shook his head. "God, no. You're not going to tell her." "I am." His head snapped back. "You can't do that. I can do whatever I want," I snapped. "You don't get to control this anymore." I could hear the sound of my own breathing. Loud, shaky, furious. Then the front door opened. "Mom?" Sarah walked in. She wasn't supposed to be home until the weekend. She looked from me to her father, then down at the photo on the table. "What's going on?" Mark stood up. "Sarah, this isn't the time." "No," I said. This is exactly the time. Her eyes scanned the picture. Who's the baby? Mark opened his mouth. I cut him off. Your father has a second apartment in Cincinnati. He's been cheating. Again. And the baby? Probably his. Sarah's face went white. Is this a joke? I wish, I said. Mark tried to reach for her. Sarah, please. She pulled back like he'd slapped her. You told me Mom was overreacting, she said, her voice cracking. You made me believe she was paranoid. I was trying to protect you, no, she snapped. You were protecting yourself. She backed toward the door. I don't want to hear this right now. And, just like that, she was gone. The silence that followed was brutal. Mark sat back down. His hands were shaking. I don't even know why I did it, he said. It just started small. I didn't mean to hurt you. I stared at him. You didn't mean to hurt me? He looked up, eyes glassy. I was lonely. I felt invisible. You were always at work or exhausted. I blinked, stunned. So I deserve this? Because I was working 2 jobs to keep our house afloat while you were playing weekend dad in a secret apartment. He buried his face in his hands. I don't know how I got here. You drove here, Mark. One lie at a time. The next day, Jake came home from Pittsburgh. Sarah had told him everything. He confronted his dad before I even had to explain. It was bad. Loud. Angry. Jake's voice broke in the middle of yelling, and then he just left. No goodbye. Nothing. Later that night, Sarah sent me a text. Sarah, I'm staying with Jake for a bit. I love you. I'm sorry. I sat on the porch with Buddy at my feet, the notebook in my lap. The proof of my husband's destruction laid out in ink. I filed for divorce 2 weeks later. Quietly. No drama. Just paperwork. Mark moved out. Took some things, left most behind. I didn't care. He's renting a small place now in a different suburb. He still tries to call Sarah and Jake. They haven't responded. I heard from Allison once. She said she was in therapy. Said she wasn't sure if she'd ever trust again. I told her, me either. I still go to work. I still come home. The days pass. Slower now, but clearer. If someone asked me what it feels like to be betrayed like this, I'd say it's like standing in the ruins of a house you didn't know was burning. You wonder what you missed. You wonder if you're the fool. And the truth is, you were. But you also gave everything, and now you get to rebuild. From scratch. For you. I learned that silence doesn't keep the peace. It just gives liars more space. I'm not healed. Not even close. But I'm not broken either. I'm just awake now. And that's a start.